other groups, feel free to provide your input. So scenario one, during an online test, you notice another student obviously looking at your computer screen. The course outline states anyone suspected of cheating or assisting in cheating may be charged with academic misconduct. Conflict may arise between you and the instructor regarding your involvement. Now, if you were the student, how would you handle this situation? So what do you guys come up with?
We came up with more of a, what's the top left one? The high aggressive competing, because mostly because usually there's legal documentation stating that what the other student is doing is wrong, and therefore you have decent grounds to really further your own interests. Like it's not, well, first of all, we try to avoid it. You'd ask to move, you'd turn your screen, but if it couldn't be avoided, then you would go to the instructor and say, like, look, I'm not going to come out and say he's cheating. This is what I think is happening. I would prefer to remove myself from this situation. And if they think you're cheating, explain to them what you did, and we would further our own interests at the expense of the other students, like having him kicked out, miss the class, or have to fail the exam because what he was doing was legally wrong.
Any comments? So what I'm hearing is that prevention. So if you think someone might be cheating off you, there's certain things you can do yourself during the exam. But if you find that it's not helping, then addressing it when? During or after? During. Well, it's probably better to during. And you don't have to point anybody out because it's just speculation. But you could probably just say, I think somebody might be cheating. Is there anything I can do to ensure I don't get in trouble for this? So you can move to a different computer, move around your computer screen. What I've done before is because I've seen people's eyes looking over. So they'll do this, they'll put their eye down. Like, and I see it with baseball caps and stuff. So I'll actually write on the board, keep your eyes up. Or keep your eyes on your own paper and cover your test. I'll actually write it on, like I won't point anybody, but I'll write it on the board. I won't have anything on the board at the beginning, but as soon as I write it down, it kind of gets everybody on red alert just to make sure. Because it is academic misconduct if you assist in somebody cheating off your paper. Okay. So examples of that, if you do this with your paper, okay, that's an example. And then I would come, not say anything, I'd write something on the board first.
I don't know if anybody else likes, but when I write, like, I usually turn.
Yeah. So
is that?
So you can do this. So I've seen people do this, right? Because this is how I write. But I normally go like this as well. Yes, you can cover your stuff. And if you're concerned, like if I write something on the board and you take a look around, it almost looks like someone's cheating off you, then you need to be a little bit proactive and protect your work as well. Okay? But again, it is a conversation that should take place during the exam and not wait till after. So in that sense, you shouldn't really avoid it. Okay. Could an argument arise? It could. It can become a he said, she said game. Okay, but then now you have to revert back to the policy. What is the policy? It's whatever the Office of Student Conduct does in the policy, which is assisting. Okay. That has happened before, just to let you know. Any other questions or comments about that first one? Okay, the second one. You are a supervisor at Red Deer College. You need to cover 2 games. And there's a big assignment due the next day. And so obviously people are going to be a little upset. You don't know if the person who's sick is sick or just working on the assignment. You'd like to trust that they have told you the truth. So let's just say that that's not even an issue, that they are legitimately sick. But now you have to assign, out of the 4 people, how do you assign that without causing chaos and disgruntledness? So what did you guys come up with?
So pretty much, we were just going to have them get together and if they can figure out themselves, like, who can cover it, because we don't know what you go. Good. Because then, they'll be resentment and stuff. So if they can do it themselves, would be ideal. And then we were saying how Okay, is it one game they cover or two?
2 games.
Oh, we thought it was just one. So we were saying if they could somehow split it, like, okay, we thought it was one game, so we're like, hey, if we get 2 people, one person cover the first half, someone cover the second half, so we still have a bit of time to work on your assignment. So there's that. And then we said if they can't work it out themselves, then we would have to get involved and point the finger and go. So we were like trying to make them so yeah, collaborate, I guess, so that
Yeah.
everyone's happy.
But again, what's the problem with collaboration, Jeff?
It takes a long time.
It does take a while. So they just called in that day, and it needs to be handled right here, right now.
No, we would have set a time limit to that, yeah, you have like 2 minutes for yourself.
Okay, good.
Or we would have been like, you go.
Good. So you do step up as a competitor at one point,
Yeah.
but you kind of force them to collaborate and do it on their own.
Yeah.
Good.
We were hoping that whoever has the assignment done already would step up and do it, but
Good.
if they didn't, then we could be picking the person or we would start their time.
Okay. Now, what's the one thing you can't really change? What is the policy?
So someone has to be there.
Okay, so high-risk sport has to be covered. So let's take a look at all the sports throughout all the placement sites. What are your high-risk sports besides football? Hockey? Rugby? Wrestling. Has to be covered. So high-risk competitions, in my mind, comes first. Home. High-risk away, assume that there's someone else at that site. What would you think the next priority would be? So high-risk sport home, high-risk sport away, that's covered, we'll say. What would be next? Home game, low risk. Competition should always take priority. What comes after all competitions? So high risk competitions, low risk competitions? Sorry? Which one? High risk practices have to get covered too. So let's say golf practice. Do you really need somebody out there? No offense to the golfers. Right? Pull that person to cover wrestling practice. Okay, so at your site, look at all the sports you have. What would be on the bottom of the totem pole there with respect to risk? And so those are your safety nets, just in case the high-risk competitions and the low-risk competitions need help. That's where you would go to first. So this is what we do in our program. If there's any events that are high-risk competitions that need coverage, so STS is an example. There's 2 dates in November. We cancel the entire class for that whole day because that site needs at least 20 students in the middle of the day. So because it is a contract that we've had over the last 3 years, there's a lot of stuff that happens. It's absolutely fantastic. We've decided as a faculty to cancel classes that particular day so you guys can go. But it's a high-risk competition, which also means that the supervisors are aware that if it conflicts with your low-risk practice, the priority is to go to wrestling. And they're aware of that. Because it's already been scheduled, your coaches are aware of that as well. Again, one of the main things in managing conflict is preparation. Having a policy in place, and then making sure it's transparent for everybody. Any other questions or comments for this particular one? This already happened at a site this year.
How did they all actually end up?
Sorry?
Realistically? How did they end, actually?
This? Fine. Hockey was covered, I think, it was safe, right? Because I think, Jordan, you were sick. And so what they did, they sent one person to go to cover both basketball teams, one person to split volleyball. I think it was just the one hockey team, though, it wasn't two. I just added the hockey to make it a little bit more trickier for this scenario. But like from what Kim told me, you guys figured it out yourself, right? So that's exactly what you guys are talking about, right? So it has to be done. You guys figure it out. If you can't, then I'll do it myself. Okay, we only have time for one more. Which one would you rather do, scenario 3 or 4?
4.
Happens a lot. Okay, the player that you're working with is very dominant, so you have to tell the coach this person can't play. How do you guys approach that? So you have to be yeah, you have to go to their office and tell them this information. So what are you expecting? You're expecting this again, right? So how do you approach it?
Try and approach it differently than the last time when he yelled.
Good.
And then you basically just have to lay out all the risks and why every player can't play.
Good. So start with your policies, rules, scope of practice, big picture, what you're really there for. Start with that. Good. What other things can you do to help neutralize the situation?
He'll probably say that it's their star player, and he doesn't play, they won't win. But you have to try and get the coach to have a more positive aspect of the team and kind of just tell the team needs to come together and win for their star player.
So change their perspective, change their motivation. Okay. What else can we do? Neutralize the situation. Take a walk. So you talk as colleagues, not as you have more authority over them, which in a way you do when it comes to healthcare, right? You do have more authority. But if you try to trump someone who already is on, for lack of a better word, a power trip, because a lot of coaches are, right? Because they're in charge of this, they're in charge of winning, and so they have this power thing within them that's innate. You need to try to neutralize that, and not, because as soon as they think that you're trying to trump them, they become defensive, and then they'll try to counter you, and that's when the yelling begins. So neutralize. Talk to them as a colleague rather than, I'm in charge of you. Okay. Taking them out of the office is one way. If you're on the sideline, it's a little bit more challenging. Take them away from the game. If you can do it at halftime, do it at halftime. If you can say, so I think at University of Calgary, is there a spot you guys can go around the bleachers or something to have a chat if you guys are assessing somebody? Yep. Yeah. So just take them off the sideline and say, hey, come down to the end of the bench, I need to talk to you. And then position yourself again so that they're not focused on the game, they're focused on what's in front of them, which is the athlete. Okay? Be aware of your tone, your body posture, your facial gestures, because those all portray, those will say different things compared to what's coming out of your mouth. So you just need to be aware of that as well. Okay. Any other questions or comments on how to handle this? Okay. It is a tricky situation. I don't agree with the coach being the healthcare provider, especially at the community level. They teach coaches all these concussion guidelines and how to assess, how to do first aid. I don't think they're in the position to do that type of thing. And that's the reason why. Okay. I'm hoping you got something out of the chat, at least some things to think about, at least some things to take with you at practice nowadays, or to your sites at least. If anything does arise when you're kind of stuck, then definitely let me know, and we'll see if we can come up with a strategy to help solve your problem. Okay? So again, hopefully you're able to recognize ways people communicate. You recognize what your own conflict management style is, and you kind of know how to pick up on what another person's conflict management style potentially could be. And you have an idea of how to create a win-win over the long term. Again, you might have to use some of the other strategies right here, right now, but the ultimate goal is to collaborate so it doesn't happen again.